Welcome back to March of Dime, the Stress Master. Thank you all for joining me. I really do appreciate it. Thank you guys for all your support on all my videos. This is kind of a cool podcast for me. A very good friend of mine that I've marched with for many, many, many years is joining me on the podcast all the way from England. Mr. Cainan, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How about you?
Good. So a little bit...
I must say, I'm not British.
You know, you're not. You're American, but you are British now.
Okay.
You've been there long enough, right?
21 years.
Yeah, so 21 years. So we'll kind of get into that because I have some questions on how you ended up there. But
Sure.
It's always been kind of a mystery to me.
It's easy. I've got 29 unpaid parking tickets in Sacramento. I'm running from the law.
Hey, that's the way to go. Yeah, so a little bit about our history. You started marching in 87 with the Freelancers.
I did,
you
yes.
Marched 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, and 92. So you marched 6 years.
I did.
I marched 5. I started in 89 and through 93. So we both marched baritone. We both were soloists at one point, even though my solo got taken away.
And my solo was horribly out of tune at finals, but other than that.
Yeah, other than that, you know, it's still awesome. And then you were in the quintet, right, in 91?
I was, yeah.
And I was in the quintet in 91.
And then, also, I believe we both did the DCI Christmas CD as well, didn't we?
I did not, actually.
Did you not? Oh, Cantona Personari, I believe is what we played.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about Cadets and Southwind, but Cainan wanted to interject something real quick here.
Yes, so as I was saying, Justin here hasn't always been the calm, cool, collected cat that you know now. Back in the day, he was, let's just say he was one of the more high-strung members of the baritone line. And used to get to the points where in rehearsal... Now, to be fair to Justin, though, the Freelancers wasn't exactly the easiest place to march drum corps. They threw a lot at us, and the stress levels were always very high. But Justin had this inane ability to go from a quivering ball of just a shaking mass of stress to just laying down a great show. And that's why he became known as the Stress Master.
Thank you. Because I forgot how I got that nickname. I just knew I had.
Hey, you've just always been the Stress Master. Me, I just marched spot B9, so I was Tumor.
Yeah, that's true. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's a great times. So the two biggest, well, actually it started with Santa Clara Vanguard last year, not being able to field. And then they magically came back. So we're going to see, hopefully that's successful this year. And we have
Park
Cadets.
That for the time being.
Yeah.
We'll circle back to that.
But I don't think they would field unless they absolutely positively couldn't. So hopefully they figured that part out. So, but then I was really shocked to see Cadets, and then Southwind. That was a real shocker to me. So I just put it up here on the screen just so we can kind of take a look at it. I mean, this is from 8 days ago, so it's pretty fresh. And what's interesting though is they were about ready to move to Erie, Pennsylvania, and they had this new complex. Yeah,
they have moved to Erie.
Yeah, and they have this brand new complex where they can rehearse indoors and all these facilities and stuff. So in that respect, it's kind of unfortunate, but I mean, you got to look at the health of your core, right? If you don't want to go on tour and just be bankrupt and then never march again, because that's happened. I mean,
yeah, and you know what though? I think that's the new reality. I don't think anybody's going to be particularly happy with it, but I think the reality is that, you know, we can't continue as an activity to run the activity like we were 15 or 20 years ago when diesel was. I haven't lived in the U.S. for 21 years, but a couple dollars a gallon, something like that. And we're at $5-6 a gallon. Something.
Yeah.
Is that about right?
Yeah, it's almost it's over $6 for diesel here.
You just can't continue to run like that. So I think that what we're looking at with the likes of Vanguard and what we're looking at with Cadets is the new reality. I think we need to be prepared for the fact that corps may have to take a year off. And personally, I would much rather a corps take the responsible decision early in the season, and take that year off and come back next year. You know what? Quite frankly, I don't give a toss if the cadets come back next year and they're a 12th place corps, as long as they come back.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And I applaud them for having granted, it was really bad timing with homecoming week for them and their alumni dinner and all that stuff, but I applaud them for having the chutzpah to make the decision now before auditions, so on and so forth. As you said, Justin, you and I, our histories with the freelancers, and that's a corps that actually folded in 1986 at Memorial Day. Yeah. That corps folded because they ran out of money. Problem was that in December they knew they didn't have any money, and they tried, and they ended up folding at Memorial Day. And how the corps came back in 87, I have no idea. And I look back at those days now, and I think, how the hell did we even tour in 87? We actually called, I don't know if you know this, Justin, we actually called it the Interstate 80 tour, because we never ventured more than 50 miles from Interstate 80 that entire year, with the exception of going to Madison. But as far as the cadets are concerned, anybody who inhabits the likes of Drum Corps Planet Online has probably come across my name before, and will know that I've been an admin at DCP since day dot. And we tend to get heads up on stuff like this. We knew about Vanguard before Vanguard happened. This was a complete bolt from the blue. And I think that's the thing that really shocked me. Nobody saw this coming, Yeah. And the shame of it is I loved the Cadets show last year. And truth be told, and I know Steve Prosser is a good friend of both of ours, but I'm typically not a Cadets fan. I absolutely loved their show last year.
It was cool. The only thing I really didn't like was the uniforms, but
I actually liked them.
From far away, it looked like just a cadet, which I think was the intention. But I was I get why they went with that, but that
show was so athletic. You couldn't have possibly done that show in anything else other than what they wore.
Well, that's every corps now, though.
That's true.
Every corps should be wearing sweats because they're just running like crazy.
Yeah, they did.
While playing.
These kids these days, I'll tell you what, they didn't have a safety pin crew going down the brass line at
oh gosh. Well, you know what though? I think those uniforms suck. Cadets had bib pants for how long? We could have just got bib pants and had the jacket on top with it already sewn on there. Not even had to worry about that junk. For people that don't know, our uniforms
were wool, for starters.
Yeah, they were wool. I hated them. I loved the look of them, though. They had the flap. But we had to safety pin our cummerbund onto our jackets. And they would come off because you're moving around, as you're moving through the show. And so you'd be like, people would be like full blown out, just like completely blown out at the end of the show. Like their cadets open, cummerbund off. And it was just sad.
Half naked coming off the field.
Just give us bib pants and a jacket that's already done. And then it'll never come off because you're moving around. But anyway.
But yeah, as far as cadets, like I said, complete bolt from the blue. The thing is, though, is I think that this is the new normal. I think that moving forward, let me rephrase that. If DCI, and they're not without some blame in this, in my opinion as well. And those that know me know I'm opinionated. But if DCI is going to continue to insist on these corps having these ridiculous tour schedules that they've got right now, this is the new normal. We'll be lucky, quite frankly, if we get 12 corps at finals.
I know. One of the things I was thinking about, and I on my previous video, I talked about, I think, and a lot of people I think agreed, is that we need to go back to more of a regional,
but how do you do that?
Well, think about this. We have how many corps do we have in California? We have almost 10, right?
Mm-hmm. Who's the next closest corps to the troopers?
Blue Knights? Blue Knights, yeah, those are the closest. Yeah.
Who else is in the area?
Nobody. But what I'm saying is, though, is if they go to one place, Like
stay there.
They kind of do this in Texas, right? Because they have like about 4 or 5 shows in Texas. So they actually do a whole circuit in Texas. So I mean, Texas is huge, but I mean, kind of my idea is like, because you have the Midwest cores, you could do tons of shows in Wisconsin, Illinois, all within that realm, but make the shows closer together in time so that you're not having, like you said, going all over. Because I remember when we were on tour, we'd go like, I remember one week we literally did a show, got on the bus like before midnight, drove to the next show, rehearsed for a couple hours, got in uniform, did another show, got back on the bus, left, and we barely even had dinner. It's just like we just kept going.
We would do that. We would do that for a week at a time.
Yeah, we'd like show after show after show after show. And we were traveling in between. So, and I know they did shorten the season last year. So it was kind of a truncated
But I think diesel
season.
was also about 75 cents a gallon back then.
Well, that's true. I know. Sorry if I'm yelling, but I have the headphones on. Let me do it this way. But I think
you have every right to yell. Be an old man shouting from your porch at this point, I'd say.
But I think last year they actually kind of had the right idea where they shortened the season a little bit. I think it was like a week, maybe they shortened it. I can't remember the exact amount of time.
It was about a week shorter, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think the quality suffered because it gave everybody an extra week to clean at the beginning of the year. As opposed
I'll take you back another year though, 2021.
Oh yeah.
So how do we put out a solid product that isn't going to kill a core financially? The model's there already. It's 2021.
I love those shows.
You know,
those are my favorite shows.
I'm not saying get rid of all the judges because quite frankly, I like the competitive aspect of drum corps.
Yeah.
You know, and any group that I've ever taught, I've always said to them, don't base your success on the opinions of 9 questionably qualified individuals. But I still like a number, if you know what I mean. I'm not saying get rid of the judges, but what I am saying is what did we do in 2021? We stayed at home. You know, we stayed at home, we rehearsed, we got our shows really good, and then we all met up together.
Yeah.
You know, and now the question is that what the kids want these days? Well, what the kids want and I say the kids, I'm talking about the marchers right now.
Yeah.
You know, I appreciate that most of them are 20 and 21 years old, but what the members want and what the members might actually be able to have, unfortunately, might be 2 different things at this point.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, the whole touring aspect for me was what I really enjoyed. I enjoyed going to different places, going to places I've never been before. The travel.
How did we tour back then, though, Justin?
On a cold bus. That was freezing. Our bus was freezing. I sat
above the engine in bus 7, man. There was no seat there. It was when
we got the newer buses, though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, 90, 91. And oh my God, that's another story. But anyway,
another story. Yeah, we could go off on a tangent there. But no, what I'm saying is, how did we tour back then? We toured. There was 2 separate tours to drum corps back then. Yep. You had first tour, a break, and then you had big tour.
And you either went to the north or the south.
Yeah. You weren't going all over the place. You had first tour, which for us was California, Oregon, maybe
Washington.
At a pinch, Washington, maybe Arizona. You know, and we would go out for 2 weeks.
Yep.
Come back to Sacramento and spend 10, 12 days back at Sac State on the total hellhole that is the practice fields at Sacramento State University.
The swamp.
Yeah.
The freaking swamp.
Yeah. Blue Devils, at least at Mars, they had a sea breeze from there, you know?
Yeah.
But then what did we do? We went out on tour for about 3 weeks, 4 weeks onto the big DCI tour. Yeah. Now, that may seem like it's some sort of a crazy idea to do these days, but somebody did it last year. So Jersey Surf last summer, they did an abbreviated tour. They did a small tour in the Northeast. They took about 2 or 3 weeks off and then rejoined the DCI tour for the last 2 weeks. Now,
Yeah.
Were they any threat to top 12? Absolutely not. And I don't think that any of them thought they would be. But you know what? I enjoyed the hell out of their show. But yeah,
Okay,
I,
here.
I enjoyed their show, but more than that, though, I applauded their organization for making a responsible decision. And going back to what I was saying before, when we're talking about new normals, I think we need to applaud organizations that make responsible decisions, even if those responsible decisions are tough ones.
Yeah. And I think there are some rules in place now for viability of organizations through DCI because of the some cores that were just, not being financially responsible. And I think that's kind of like everybody's forefront now is being more responsible, being more cognizant of the responsibility for these young performers. Like when we were young performers, I'm gonna be honest, back in the 80s, there was no consideration really for us.
No, God, no.
There was not. It was just like, okay, let's get out there and tour and do our thing. You know what? Hey, hold on. I'm showing me up here in the corner. I was still hanging out on your feed. Anyway, but I mean, it's not like it was a bad thing now that I'm looking back at it, but at the time it was very tough.
It was a different time, I mean,
80s and 90s was just a wild west of just weird. 70s, I'm sure, was even worse.
But on the same token, though, how many cores came and went in that time?
A lot. Hundreds, right? Hundreds.
And
I look
back. Yeah, I look back at freelancers, for instance, and you know what? I look back at my time with freelancers very fondly. However, I also look back at it I can also look back at it through modern eyes. And a lot of people like to have a go at kids today about so-called woke culture and all that stuff. But I look back at the stuff that we went through in our day, and it wasn't safe. We were driving around in unsafe buses, with tours that were ridiculous. We were rehearsing on fields that were unsafe. We were staying in unsafe places. Yes, the freelancers ate well. We know this. And just in case you're watching, Charlie Anderson, we ate very well. But there was no real account taken into things like diet and calorie intake and so on and so forth. So if that's woke, then you know what? Woke ain't a bad thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think if people are using it as a catchphrase to be negative, and the whole point of woke is just being aware, being awake about things that are important, and the whole woke thing drives me nuts.
And the shows that these cores are putting out these days, as I said to you when you and I were chatting before we started the podcast, we were. Let's be honest. We were kind of big deals. We were lead baritone players in a top 12 drum and bugle corps, kind of a big deal in a really small pond.
In a microcosm, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I wouldn't even get a call back today. The talent level of these kids today, and the show, and the complexity of the shows that they're putting out are just unreal. I went back and marched again from 2016 to 2019 with the Kids Grove Scouts over here in the UK. And I got what could best be described as a little tiny taste, if you will, of what modern drum corps is like. I couldn't imagine doing, say, for instance, what the Bluecoats did last year. Or, God forbid, the Cadets at that athletic show that they did.
Yeah.
So, but on the same token, in order to do that, we have to run our organizations responsibly. And running our organizations responsibly includes things like proper rest, proper transportation, proper staffing, proper nutrition. So when we look at staffing, we didn't have sports trainers and doctors and medical staff when we marched. We just didn't,
Well, I mean, but
and those things cost money.
Yeah, they do. I was looking at... let me see if I can grab Spirit of Atlanta.
Oh, it was great. Are you talking about
the pie chart?
Brilliant that.
Okay, so what we're looking at here, everyone, is kind of a breakdown of Spirit of Atlanta's 2023 finances. They put out, so it's kind of out there in the world. But
I think they should be applauded for this as well. The amount of
The
amount of transparency that's been coming out of that organization it should absolutely be applauded, in my opinion. Not just on this sort of stuff, but on anything. For those that don't know, the whistleblower policy that they have there at Spirit has pretty much become in the roadmap that everybody's using now. So,
yeah, definitely.
For a group that ran into a lot of controversy a couple of years back, they've really they've turned that ship 180 degrees there.
Absolutely. And you can see here, like, we were just talking a minute ago about the costs of like having the trainers and the fitness people and the nutritionists and stuff like that. You can see here, like the labor costs, 31.4%. That's a third of their budget. Transportation is 22.53%. And then operational expenses. Half. Yeah. So right here between labor, transportation, and operational, you're at 67% right here.
Not a single foot has stepped foot on the field yet.
Yep. And transportation, I think it's going to go up for 2024 because gas is starting to come down a little bit. So I'm wondering if by summer it's going to be back down to the 2023 levels because it has started dropping here. It's dropped about $1. So hopefully by the time tour hits, we'll be back down. Housing 9.84, and housing is also another issue that a lot of corps run into because it's so expensive now because they want insurances and stuff like that now, and with COVID and that whole thing, I'm sure it's getting harder and harder to find housing. So
don't forget as well, a lot of schools are year round now, or near enough year round.
Yeah, so it gets really, really hard. I mean, and I remember when we marched, man, we stayed in, like you said, we stayed in some places that were like, huh? It's like
Nasty Toe Cheese, Louisiana.
Nasty Toe Cheese, Louisiana. I remember we stayed in the middle school once. It literally looked like the bathroom had been burned down, and we were stepping over wood to get into the showers and stuff like that. It was like, what the heck was that?
As I recall, the Nasty Toe Cheese was literally the only housing site that the freelancers ever turned down. And my God, if the freelancers turned down a housing site, you know it must have been a bag of bones.
Because oh my God, that was an experience.
The thing I remember about Natchitoches was the showers because we drove all night. Do you remember that was where we rehearsed in that really weird stadium? I think it was Northwest Louisiana State Stadium. Where it was like, just remember, it was one set of stands that just went up forever. And Paul Zimney up at the very top, just shouting at us from the very top. I don't know if you remember that one.
I don't. There's so many things that happened.
But the thing I remember about that one was, it's just one of those memories that stuck in my head all these years later, was the showers, was that there was actually dead animals floating in the 6 inches of water that was still in the showers.
That must have been before me. Was that 88?
Might have been. It might have been 88. And I don't know.
Because I don't remember that in 89. But
all the rules, all the years sort of meld together.
I know.
But
okay, we're digressing. Let's go back to this.
I mean, so your operational expenses, your housing. I mean, food is only 8.5%. I'd have thought that would have been a lot more.
Yeah. But I mean, honestly though, and I actually saw a comment which was kind of nasty. I really didn't appreciate the comment someone made about Madison Scouts. They announced their visual staff, and there's 12 people. But what a lot of people don't understand is these visual staff aren't there 100% of the time. There's some people that go for like a week or 2 weeks, or they only do the local, the winter season stuff like that because they have other gigs and stuff. So people are like, oh, this is the whole problem with. No, that's not the problem. They have to have larger staffs because people can't take like the time we used to. Some people can, but like in the 80s and 90s, people would just go on tour and no problems, and just travel wherever they wanted to. Now people have multiple gigs. They teach bands all over the place. Yeah. They write. Like me, I used to write like sometimes 5-6 shows in a summer. I can't take the whole summer off. I just can't do that. Yeah. But I can take a little bit. I can go a week or two, or maybe just go finals week or something. But
the other thing to consider as well, though, is that when we look at what we're paying these staff, the vast majority of the staff, when you look at the labor costs, 31.4%, the vast majority of staff are making minimum wage. That's it.
Yeah, if not less.
Well, I think that
The amount of hours.
I would venture a guess that drum corps these days are probably tight within labor laws as far as what they pay people.
Yeah, but I mean, oh, I just pulled something again. Did I turn off?
No, you're still there. You're still there.
I keep pulling things, and it's like
all looks good to me.
Okay, good. Because I mean, if you think about it, like when you're on tour, you're there 24 hours a day. You're not working 24 hours a day, but you kind of are in that mode. You know what I mean? So I'm just equivalating.
Yeah, no, I get that. I get what you're saying.
You're not working a straight labor, time.
But when you with the exception of your, I'm not going to name any names here, but your big name designers and your big name caption heads, the rest of those guys are making minimum wage, and like you said, Justin, when you factor in the fact that if they're going on tour with the Corps, they're sleeping overnight, they're probably not getting paid for those hours, so they're probably not getting anywhere near minimum wage. Yeah, you're right.
I mean, honestly, 31% is not that bad, considering you got to pay. You're not really driving anywhere for most of the season. You're only driving during the summer times, really. So the labor cost, 31%, is to me is reasonable. So, but you got to think about this: you have to have people that design the show. You have your caption heads that got to manage everybody. Corps are bigger than they used to be. They're 40 more people than when we had it. It's 165 now. It used to be 128, if not lower. So you'd have to have less people in the field to watch,
Unless you're the freelancers. And we started out every year with about 85 and picked them up on first tour as we went.
That's true. The Arizona Sun Cruise.
Yeah.
From Arizona, but I mean, honestly, I don't think that's unreasonable. Your labor's always the most expensive component of any business.
But yeah, no, when you talk about labor as well, one of the complaints we hear all the time is, "Oh, that staff is so big, There's so many members of staff." Well, do you know what? Even if they were all there at the same time, which they're not, going back to looking at the types of shows that we're putting out, they need to be there.
Yeah. Especially the layers of visual complexity now are insane, because you have, and I think this really started with the Blue Devils, to be honest, with Scott Chandler and the way that they were handling the visual components. They started introducing the horn line into the color guard-ish movement, you know what I mean? Like the feet and the body movement and stuff like that. And I'm not saying specifically it was Blue Devils, but they kind of really
I think it's brilliant, by the way.
They kind of really, but because now, like what you said, the demand is so ridiculous. You have to, when you audition for Corps now, you have to know how to move.
Oh yeah, if you can't make the brass line, you still might make the color guard.
Yeah, you have to know how to move. You have to know how to. There is a dance component to your audition now. And I mean, in all the years that I've taught, I started teaching more and more like toe point, how to move. Do jazz running, jazz walking, tendus, all this other stuff. And to me, and if you think about this, like even like color guards, right? There's 10 people on color guard staff, but once again, they're not there all the time. And you have a movement person, equipment like flag, and then you also have choreography people that do sabers, rifles. That's a whole different thing, because you got to teach each of these groups. You can't have them all together all the time, so you have to separate them out. And there's like 30 people in the color guard now. So, well, there was back then too.
30?
But everybody, some like
Blue Devils were nearly 50 last year. It was ridiculous.
Really? Yeah.
Great guard. I mean, ridiculous in a good way. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. Think how many staff you need for that.
Yeah.
You need one staff member for every like 6 to 8 people.
Yeah.
If you think about it realistically, but
gone are the days where Corps can have that staff guy does the bass drums. No, that just doesn't work. Doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, you have to have specializations. It's microcosms within the organization.
But the thing is, though, now, I mean, I'm still looking at that list, though. You don't have to reopen it, but I mean, looking at it, though, obviously, the thing that jumps out at me, though, is that when you see stuff like, show production, it's only 2.6%. So when people are whinging about, well, if they just got rid of props, then they wouldn't need to they wouldn't need to fold. It's a ridiculous argument.
I mean, it does cost more when you have props, because you have to have an additional trailer just to pull it, and that's money, but that's part of your transportation cost.
Yeah. So
really?
so let's say you get rid of that. Okay. So what are you going to get rid of? One of 12 vehicles, 13 vehicles. So you're going to lose what? Maybe 4 or 5% of your total transportation budget? Ain't going to be
Probably
enough to make a
two.
difference.
Probably two.
Yeah. Ain't going to
It's
be enough to make a
2%.
difference.
No. And the electronics, that's another thing. That's hundreds of thousands of dollars really for electronics. If you really want to
Now,
think about it.
this could be a whole different conversation. Now, personally, I like electronics in drum corps, and I shouldn't because I'm old, but I do like electronics in drum corps. I like the fact that, for instance, that the pit doesn't have to beat the absolute snot out of their instruments to be able to be heard, that they can actually play their instruments with the correct technique and still be heard. And I think that, a decade or two on from when we start, when did we were talking about, what, early 2000s, 2003, 2004, something like
Yeah,
that?
somewhere in that realm, yeah.
So we're what, nearly
Electronics.
20 years into electronics. I think we're
Yeah.
finally at a point where the overbalancing of the front ensembles kind of going away for the most part. We're starting to hear tuba lines again, so on and so forth.
But I think
Which
the problem I have though, and so it's kind of a two-pronged thing because I went to finals last year. I had never been to the Colts Stadium.
did Phantom Regiment shake out your fillings?
Oh yes, they were so good, so good.
Yeah, from what I understand, somebody may have turned the volume up a little bit on their front ensemble.
Good for them because that was amazing. The problem I have is it's kind of like I'm in a conundrum because unless you see finals in the stadium, you don't really get the understanding of why they're doing what they're doing. They have to mic everybody ensemble because in that venue, it echoes like crazy. I mean, it just echoes beyond belief when you're like, I can't even imagine trying to balance that out, as a sound engineer. And I understand why they mic, the tuba lines sometimes, or they mic the soloist so it blends in with the sound coming up. Because if you did not do that there, it would just echo around and the balance would just be out of whack. But I hate it because I don't want electronics. I want to hear the natural sound, you know what I mean, of the instruments. But we're not performing
you're damned if you
outside.
do and you're damned if you don't.
But we're not performing outside like we used to at finals, right? At finals, you could have somebody on the back hash playing and you could hear them because by the time the sound got to you, it was spread out. Whereas in the stadium, it's all reverberating around in a circle,
The other thing as well is it's going back to show styles as well. It's not just the where the shows are, but it's the style of shows that we're doing as well. You just don't have the physical capacity to rip these horns like we did back on the G's, and that's a whole different show.
Yeah, G bugles, yes. But it's also they're running.
Yeah, they're running. You need it.
Playing.
I thought one of the most brilliant things that I saw, I think I noticed it was either last year or the year before, is Phantom Regiment. Again, going back to my new favorite corps, Phantom Regiment, is the fact that they've taken the decision to mic their entire tuba line.
Yeah, that's a whole nother show for me on tubas because I am really
I'm a tuba player now, though, as you know.
Yeah, I don't get the tuba staging. I mean, I get if they're mic'd that you can hear them and that's fine. But for anyway, that you can go back and watch my videos on that. But there's like some tuba line staging. I'm like, why would you do that on an impact point? The tubas are way back behind the drums. The horn line's up here in the corner, so you got people here. The tubas are here. Horn line's here. There's no balance. You can't hear.
But
the
with
tubas.
mics, you can.
You can. Yeah,
with mics, you can. It takes away those staging issues.
It does.
But I mean, going back to the money thing, though, like I said, is that obviously we mentioned cadets. There's Southwind as well.
Yeah.
There was Vanguard last year, and the thing that I find the most disturbing in all of this, though, is the absolute lack of anything at all from DCI.
Yeah, but I agree with you. The whole DCI thing, they're not even like saying anything, and maybe that's a political thing. I don't know, but they should be making statements about it and saying, hey, we want to make sure the viability of the, something like positive, like, we're glad that the cadets are taking time to reassess. We want to make sure that, if they need anything, they can come to us or whatever. But you're like you said, I mean, sure, there's stuff happening behind the scenes that we're not seeing. Because they have to talk to DCI and say, hey, we're not going to field, and this is why. And because they have to send reports.
The problem, as I see it, though, Justin, is that DCI likes to say that DCI is the cores and, and all that when it's convenient for them, And this is the bit where I said I'm a bit opinionated. And personally, I think DCI needs to act more as a regulator than just being a mouthpiece for the cores, because we're in a situation now where, we had a few years back where we had the whole G7 thing and all that. And now it's very, very, very quickly become, it's not an arms race anymore. It's the haves and the have-nots, and we're in that, I think that as an activity, we're really at a tipping point, and I think that somebody should be DCI, needs to step up and say, this isn't working. This just isn't working, and we need to address the problem. To me, the biggest wasted opportunity that this activity had was the pandemic. And I know that sounds a little bit crazy.
No, I get where you're going.
We had to put a hard stop on everything that we did for the year of 2020. We came back with this idea of kind of a micro tour, because I think there was a few shows, wasn't there, like the week before?
Yeah, maybe.
Showcase in 2021. So we had this idea of this micro tour in 2021. And then we had the showcase show at Lucas Oil. And guess what? The shows were all really good, weren't they?
I know. They were amazing. It's my favorite. That's like, I tell everybody, those are my favorite shows because there were no rules. There were no, like, overlying, you have to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It gave people time to go, we're going to do this. I mean, let's look at Boston Crusaders.
The lighting or the video.
Yeah, they did Zoom, right? This whole thing called Zoom. And it was amazing. The cool visuals, and they had like the things going on. The only thing I didn't like about it was they were stationary, but that's because they're huge.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, it's one of my favorite shows. And then also even what was the other one? Crown didn't go, but they did like a show at their home stadium.
Yeah.
That was cool. I'm trying to think what are the other shows. Cadets. Oh my God, that was a great show. They did the whole home stage and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Kind of like nostalgia kind of a thing. Oh.
Blue Stars pitched up with about 290 people, I think it was, something like that.
Yeah, that was so, I agree and you're right, that was a missed opportunity because and I pointed it out at the time. It was like
it was an opportunity. It was an opportunity to hit the stop button and say, let's rethink how we're doing it. So we did. We rethought how we were going to do it, and we did it for 2021. And then 2022 came, and we just went back to the old way of doing things. And what did we do? What did we do in 2022? We lost the Santa Clara Vanguard.
Mm-hmm.
We lost the Vanguard Cadets. We lost the Blue Devils B. Now we've lost Southwind. Now we've lost Cadets. I'm hearing through my connections that the Cadets aren't the only shocking news that we're going to be hearing over the next few weeks.
Yeah.
When does it stop? You and I are just two blokes, and I don't think that we have the answers, but I think that it's blatantly obvious to us that clearly something's not right, and clearly something needs to change,
Yeah.
And it's almost like, I almost liken it to an addiction, if you know what I mean. You can't change until you admit you have a problem.
Yeah, it's true. But I think part of the problem, though, and I agree with you, I'm trying to think of this from each organization is different, right? So, I mean, you have organizations like Blue Devils, and then you have organizations like Jersey Surf, like two opposite ends of the spectrum, two opposite ends of the country, have different income streams, have different whatever. And this could be for any corps, but it has to be a conscious observation within each corps to know their scope. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they have a lot in common. They run their organizations responsibly.
Yeah, and it has to be, and I'm like you said, I applaud the cadets for realizing, hey, this ain't gonna work. We can't do this. Why are we gonna push, go into debt, possibly fold forever for one season? It doesn't make sense.
No,
and I think I applaud them for that. I think Southwind also made a good decision. Hopefully, they can reorganize, and they folded a couple times in the past to reorganize and come back. So. Who knows? Maybe next year might be a completely different thing.
But you think of the cadets, even back, we've had for those of you who haven't figured out, this is the first time me and Justin have actually spoken in a few decades. We have a bit of catching up to do. So we've had a bit of time reminiscing. But even you go back to the cadets, that is a corps that has been financially on its ass on a number of occasions. But in 90 years, or in 89 years, I should say, never once folded.
Yeah.
Now they folded.
Yeah.
That should be the wake-up call.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. But we do have one more thing. Is one of the things I wanted to introduce is now that I actually have this podcast thing with Cainan here, we're gonna do a verses. So if you guys have never seen the verses before, I'll actually post one of my verses from the past. I don't know, we'll see. But the way the format used to be is we would look at different areas of a corps. I would pick a year, a controversial year, like let's say, like 1988, and we'll kind of like go, who should have won in '88? So one of the things I'm going to do is, let me put my headphones back on because now I can't hear you. But my ears hurt. One of the things I wanted to do was kind of do it in a different format. So I have a bunch of years in here. You can see the folded paper.
So this could be renamed "Defend the Indefensible" as well, could it not?
It could be. I'm gonna call it versus, because the format I'm gonna do is we're gonna take the first and second place corps, and it could be also a tie if they tied for first place.
All the time.
Who should have really won? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a year, and then next week, I'm going to show each of the clips from those years. So let's go ahead and pick the year first. Okay, and this is totally random. I have about a dozen in here from all over, from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. All right, I'm going to pick this one. Let's see what this one is. Ooh, 1989. 1989, great year.
Phantom Regiment.
Okay, he's got Phantom Regiment. I got Santa Clara Vanguard.
They should have won and won by at least a full point.
So, okay, that's where we're gonna have to prove it. So this is how we're gonna do it. We're gonna break it down by different captions, and this isn't exact, but I'll get exact to us before we do this. But it's gonna be it's gonna be about a minute per clip. So brass, color guard, drumline, a cool moment, and that could be some GE moment, whatever type of moment, and then cleanliness, a super clean moment in the show.
That's the bit I might struggle with.
Yeah, for Phantom, because there's some parts that were kind of dirty, some parts that were super cool.
They weren't exactly spick and span,
but they were damn good.
It was so entertaining.
Yeah, so that's kind of what we're gonna do, and what we're gonna do is he's gonna give me his clips. I'm not gonna even. I'm just gonna break them out. I'm gonna save them, and then I'm gonna have my clips, and I'm gonna have those broken out, and then we're gonna watch the clips for each category. We're gonna personally write down who we thought won, but we're gonna leave it up to you guys after the video, which is gonna be next week, who you thought won, and I'll put up a poll of who you thought should have won, and then you guys can also give me comments on what categories and stuff, and we'll kind of total all those points up. So you can only choose one category for the winner. So for brass, you can only pick one. You can't pick both. So you're going to pick one, and then
no ties here.
Yeah, no ties here. We're going to tally up the points, and then whoever won. And we're going to do it like DCI. Whoever wins GE is going to win. So if there is a tie, it's whoever wins GE is going to win. So we're going to do it just like DCI does.
So Phantom wins then.
Yeah, we'll see. 1989 is the year. Can't wait for that. Super excited. I'm also super excited to have you on here, my friend. We've known each other, gosh, forever. Like since I think we became friends really in 91. Because I think in 89 and 90, you kind of just dealt with me. Because I was a jerk. I was a little punk. But I think in 91, we kind of became better friends. And
oh no, you were the one of the Manteca kids, as I recall. You and
yes.
Mario
and Richard was Tracy and
yeah.
Larry before them, but anyway, thank you guys so much for joining us. As always, I do appreciate it. Please subscribe if you have not done so. What's crazy, over the summer, I had over 45 to 50,000 people watching my videos, but I only have 1,700 subscribers. So please subscribe. It only takes a second. You just click that button and then you get notified whenever we have videos like this. This is going to be a weekly thing, hopefully going forward. There might be a couple of weeks where we have to not do it because of vacations or, Christmases or whatever, but I'm intending on doing this every week because I think it's a cool format. I'm still going to be doing my other videos as well. So I will be doing, when we have news, I'm going to try to just bring it on the podcast here. We can talk about the news together. And there's always news. There's always new stuff coming out. We're going to try to keep this to under an hour just so that you guys aren't having fatigue of watching. Because that's a lot. I mean, even for me, I can't watch something more than like 35, 40 minutes, but
my wife can't stand looking at my face more than for about a half an hour at a time anyway. So
there you go. There you go. But thank you guys so much for joining me. I'm gonna take this off now. But thank you, and then we will be seeing you guys on next week's video when we talk about 1989. We're gonna be doing a versus, so that podcast is gonna be dedicated just mainly to that. But we will be talking about any new news that comes out from Drum Corps. All right. Well, thank you so much. I'm the Stress Master,
and I'm the Tumor.
That's right. And we'll see you guys on the next podcast. Thank you guys so much. Have a good one. March on.